What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Naboulsi. Today, we are diving deep into artificial intelligence, not the science fiction version, but the real practical AI that's changing how we work, create, and live right now. And to help us make sense of it all, I brought in someone who's not just talking about it, but he's also building it. He's in the trenches, he's diving deep, and he's trying to make sense of it all for us. So, Eric Post, welcome to the show, sir.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good, man. Good to have you on. I'm excited about this.
This is one of these topics that we'll be talking about forever. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to have a little chat with you about this.
And just for everybody that doesn't know, Eric's currently the founder and CEO of Huzi.ai, which is a SaaS company that's really at the forefront of helping businesses actually implement and leverage AI in meaningful ways and practical ways. We've seen a lot of these fly-by-night businesses. Unfortunately, majority of them don't really prove to be useful, but he's been in the trenches figuring out how he can integrate into real workflows and what really works versus what's actually just hype. This is kind of where it's all headed. So over the next however long this takes, we're going to cover everything from how you start using AI today, if you've never touched it before, to what actually looks like in the real world 25 years from now. And we'll talk about tools, strategies, monetization, advice, and you're going to get it all with a little bit of philosophical stuff too, because Eric has a touch of a philosophical side to him, which I love. This is going to be a great conversation, not an interview. So let's just jump right in. Let's get comfortable. Before we get into all the technical stuff, Eric, I want to ask, what was the moment that you realized AI was going to be this thing that's going to change everything in our lives? Like what was the specific oh shit moment for you?
It was literally the moment that helped me help my daughter. You know, that's the moment. It's what started this whole company. Is what started my interest in all this. It's when I realized that we can leverage a technology to help people do things they couldn't do on their own before with typical software, and they couldn't do it with Google. Like my daughter was doing homework. It was, calculus, stats, and AP classes that was above my ability to kind of translate how they're teaching it in school today. Even if I couldn't even figure out the problem, honestly, she's pretty smart. And so she was stuck, and we couldn't find a tutor. The teacher couldn't help her. Nobody around in the community could help her at this level, and that we could find. And so I was like, "Hey, hon, let's try this artificial intelligence thing." ChatGPT came out that day. It was literally that day, November. I think what was it, 22nd or something like that, or in November of 2022. And I had been looking that whole day. I kept meaning to go check out ChatGPT, the brand new release, and all those sorts of things, but I didn't want to write a poem in the style of Eminem about spaghetti or whatever. I was looking for I was waiting to actually use it. And when my daughter needed help, I'm like, well, let's see if this AI thing can help me help you. And it took me a couple hours, Mo, to figure out how to talk to it and how to work with it to help my daughter. But at the end of that, we did. She's able to finish the assignment. She's able to turn it in, and I watched her go from pretty deflated, pretty frustrated, pretty confused to empowered and confident and happy that she did the work. And that was insanely addicting to me, as a father, and then just as a man that likes the power of transformation, like seeing businesses and people transform. So man, that's the thing. That's the thing I want to wrap my life around. That's the thing I want to figure out how to do. So, and dude, I stayed up for 3 days and just sat there, just no, I didn't sleep for 2 nights, 3 days, and just sat there and just how does this work? And what is this? And I just started just diving deep into what is happening with this new technology. And I knew about AI, and I've been, working on some tech companies before, and I'd seen it, but not in this consumer facing version, like the ChatGPT 3.5 or 3. And it was that moment where I was like, I'm going to dedicate my life to figuring out how do we leverage a technology that's not a faster horse. It's a brand new technology. It's not another piece of software. It's cognitive labor. How do we harness this digital cognitive labor to do things that matter? Right. And that was the moment, man.
People are saying that it's going to be bigger or is bigger than the .com bubble. Do you agree?
I don't know about the bubble. You mean the current AI bubble?
The current AI bubble, yeah. In general, there's going to be more opportunity than the internet.
Oh, yeah. So bubble, I interpret bubble as something about to happen, like the housing bubble and the .com bubble.
Oh, yeah. My bad.
There might be, might want to talk about that too, because there might be some element of that.
For sure.
But there's no doubt. And I'm not pro AI. I want to like everyone to hear me say this. I am pro empowerment. I am
Hmm.
pro transformation. We just happen to have a technology that allows us to do that in a new way. So
Yeah.
I'm pro people. I'm pro nature. I'm pro animals. I'm pro getting outside. However, AI is a technology that can do some really cool things, and there is a downside to every upside. But that's my view of it. Is just I'm pro transformation, and we can do that with AI.
I think that's fantastic. I think my biggest struggle is being able to explain AI to like my parents, my friends, my family. Um, how I guess let's just say I'm a solopreneur, or even if I work for a company, you know, a lot of people that I've spoken to either fear it because it's like something that's out of reach or they don't understand it. How do you how do you explain AI to like your friends and family? Like how does that even come up and what kind of language do you use? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a super interesting question. I haven't had to explain it like that too much. I mean, the technicalities of it. How does a neural
Yeah.
network work? What is a token? But getting people to understand that AI systems currently as they are now in talking about an LLM, a large language model, first of all, like a ChatGPT, like a Claude and whatnot, generative text technology or even generative image or video don't understand that it's not grounded in a truth. There's no truth to it. It's grounded in patterns. And the patterns are extracted from the training data. And most of the training data comes from the internet. Most of the internet comes from Reddit, Wikipedia, and whatnot, right? I just want people to clearly hear me that there's no truth behind, there's no soul, there's no connection to the 3D world with AI. It's doing the best it can by learning the patterns that which people have communicated throughout all of history and all of documented history that's been put on the internet, essentially, right? So that's the biggest thing for people to understand. So when they say, well, it's lying to me or it's hallucinating. No, it's creatively guessing the next token that you think that thinks you need to hear. And there's no intent with the lying, right? There's no intent with the truth. It's trying to follow this pattern. And so, there's a certain agency that people have to have when you're using AI systems that you truly have to be a good partner for it to give it a chance to help you. Right. And so these sort of like ideas like, oh, I tried it and it didn't work for me, or oh, it doesn't give me lied to me, it gave me a bad image generation, or it gave me a generic response. Yes, it's because you didn't give it a chance to succeed. And I'm also talking about today's versions, not like a year or 2 years. Like today's models are pretty darn smart and pretty darn powerful. And as long as you know how to operate them, you're going to be able to do a lot of either work or a lot of research or produce a lot of copy or transform your business entirely. I think I want people to understand that AI is a thought partner. It's not something you delegate to. It's a thing that you collaborate with instead of like boss around. And as long as you start to get that, then we can start to understand how do you extract the best out of it that can help you help whatever you're working on.
That's fantastic. I think that's the most eloquent way I've ever heard it being said, which makes me think about the little part of the next question, which is what platform do I choose? Now, I will say for everybody listening, I'm biased. I use a phenomenal tool. I am a member. I am a customer. I am a user of Huzi.ai. So I want to say that, at the forefront. But the benefit of that is because you get all of the best LLMs conjoined together with also the system that's in place that just makes it so mind-numbingly easy and allows you to have creative control over everything that you're trying to do. And I don't want to get too much into it right now. We'll dive a little bit deeper later. But that being said, what would be the tool to choose or tools to choose? Because it is very overwhelming. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, so on and so forth. What do you say to that, Eric?
So I'm building this company and the products based on what I think is actually necessary, not what I think I can sell, and the selling will come as the outcome of me building something that's necessary. Right. So building this company, I was looking at, well, what do I need to be successful in today's modern age in business? What different AI models do I need in what mixture? And as soon as I started to really understand that these different AI frontier models, and I'm just going to like Grok, Claude, OpenAI, Gemini, let's just list those three major ones. those ones all act, think, and process the world differently. And the first things I wanted is I wanted the ability to like interact with all of them in one platform. I didn't want them siloed, right? And I wanted to be able to ask the same question to multiple AIs and see the way they thought about things. Also saw really quickly how AI wasn't actually simplifying people's tech stack. It was bloating their tech stack. They were getting more
Yeah.
subscriptions, more username and password, right? More things to learn. And so how could I then create a platform was integrating the best in text, video, and image generations into one platform to allow somebody to flexibly use those anytime they want and they can collaborate with each other, right? So to be clear, that's why I'm building this particular part of the product the way I'm building it, because I knew it was something that I needed. And if I needed to serve my business that way, that's something that's transferable to other businesses and other, individuals and creatives even, right? So once you really start developing the understanding that I think that uh, um, I use a strategist and specialist sort of strategy when I'm talking to AI. So
Hmm.
I use AI to talk to AI. So I'm coordinating. I'm being an orchestra conductor between AIs instead of me being the prompt engineer and prompting AIs. So I use one AI as my strategist, as my thought partner, and then I'm using that to collaborate with that AI to give instructions to the specialist, the AI that I'm actually doing the work. Okay. And I think that sort of strategy really amplifies the person's ability to talk to an AI because they're not having to think of all the best prompts. They can delegate that part to the AI and work with the AI to create these prompts and these strategies. And then you take that and give it to the specialist AI that's doing the work, and you work like 10x's, man, both in quality and quantity for sure. So that's why I like having a flexible interface, not a just a linear chat interface. You're talking to one AI back and forth, but a sort of flexible interface where I can use strategies like this that help me get to the heart of the work instead of having to like sit and wait and do a prompt and wait and prompt and wait.
Just the more a company releases stuff, OpenAI releases Atlas, and then you've got this, and you've got that, and just it just at what point does the trade off between convenience and skill atrophy? Like, should we be worried about this overwhelming abundance of technology? I guess.
Wow, there's some philosophy in that too, because underneath that
Hmm.
question, I constantly hear about resources, like the amount of resources being used to build these server farms, to be able to power these. We have a huge power shortage in this country. I'm seeing things like 90% of all of our power is going to be used by the AI server farms in the next 5 years, which means we have to dramatically increase our power output. We've got companies like Google and whatnot that are building multiple nuclear power plants, right? In order to power their server farms. We got guys like Elon Musk over in Michigan who couldn't get enough power from the grid at all. So he had to build his own natural gas power plant right next to his server farm so he can generate more
Yeah.
power and bring in solar and Tesla batteries and whatnot to help power the plant, right? So, I definitely think that we live in a place where greed plays into capitalistic decisions. And, when there's a gold rush like this, then I do think that we kind of put some best practices of environmentals, or best practices of how we treat each other, best practices of how we treat, our clients aside a little bit and trying to be part of that gold rush. So yeah, I do see that we are going a little bit crazy on some of these builds without really a clear direction. Um, but man, at the same time, I can understand it because there has never been a race, including the nuclear race. There hasn't been a bigger race that was more important to a country or a nation than the race for superintelligence, right? If you are the first country to achieve some level of super intelligence with an infrastructure that can support it, train it, power it, all that, you are the world superpower more than a nuclear weapon. So I can understand it from that sort of political, standpoint, but as from society, man, we're burning a lot of tokens just making, like we were talking about videos of, Steve Hawkins skateboarding and stuff like that. And it's fun and whatnot, but we don't really think about the second, third layer consequence sometimes when we're doing those things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. And I think if you look at things, that's when we kind of tend to look at things more retrospectively. You tend to get a little bit maybe more worried of the bigger picture, but at the same time, I mean, you can cross the street and get hit by a car in a day. So it's like, what are you actually concerned of? Just you try to live the best that you can with, what you got. So,
And that's actually what got in this business, because I was like, oh man, this is coming. It's coming to every
uh-huh.
facet of my life, to every industry. It's going to touch me when I'm doing entertainment, when I'm going to the doctor, when I'm going to the dentist, I'm talking to my accountant. It's going to touch every part of my life. And so instead of sitting back and being at the mercy, I'm like, well, let's see what happens. I just dove in. I want to put my fingerprints on it, right, and figure this out together and figure it's
Yeah,
the
you
thing.
jumped right ahead of it. I mean, most people are, they're still kind of sitting on their hands. They're still in fear or they're in ignorance, whether that be blissful or otherwise. It's just one of those situations where, like, I don't know what to do and I don't really want to touch it, and they'll try to ignore it for as long as they can till they absolutely cannot no longer ignore it because it just becomes a new way of life.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day where an internet company was looked at as a scam, and now you
So
have multi-billion-dollar internet companies. It's just the way that the world shifts and changes and adapts. It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
it is. And I love studying history, and I love studying psychology and human nature and societies and trends in societies. And so knowing that one of my first reactions to it was a little bit of fear because I didn't understand it. I was like, oh, that's why I got to
Yes.
squash first. Like,
Yep.
I have to
Yep.
fully immerse myself in it to understand it. So the fear goes away and the knowledge rises, right? And so clarity
Yep.
comes. So that is just, but I'm just believe in immersion anyways. If you're going to do something, then freaking do it. And so I jumped all the way in here. But if there is that sort of feeling or the fear, like I see a lot of people online talking about, they're scared of it. It's the devil, and it's all, they start putting the spiritual natures to it and whatnot. And I would too, if I didn't understand it. Right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Makes sense. If you sit
Yeah.
back and give everyone a little bit of grace from their own perspective. But I just encourage people to definitely learn what it is and what it isn't before you start making, cemented and concrete opinions about it.
I appreciate that. Actually, to add to that, what do you think is the most vulnerable? I guess what industry or industries do you think will be the most vulnerable to AI in terms of disruption?
Every industry that is a knowledge-based service industry, medical, legal, real estate, financial,
Hmm.
mortgage, where people are going to get advice and opinions. The knowledge that was aggregated in the individual is now disseminated into a ChatGPT and a Huzi, right? And Gemini, right? And so it's no longer about that sort of PhD level, expertise. The knowledge is there now. And we've always kind of been able to say that was on the internet, or you could find it on Google. No, not in the not in the condensed chatbot format, right? That you can just get access to anything you want. So that's there. But the trend that we'll see that's happening is that doesn't mean that the consumer knows what questions to ask and how to ask it in order to get the right advice. So what's happening with a professional when you deal with your doctor or your lawyer or whatever, they're proactive in assessing the situation, giving you advice and leading you through things. Chatbots today are receptive. They give you what you ask for. They're not a do as you want machine. They're a do as you ask machine, right? And so it's one of those things where we got to invert the relationship of AI to person to be able to lead them through to actually now disrupt industries like this. So the disruption won't happen just because consumers have access to the information. That will disrupt, the early adopters and the high intellect people, right, that can figure it out. But for the majority of people, they have to wait for the AI system to get proactive, to be able to provide them leadership with things that they don't know anything about to start off with, like a professional would. So as soon as the AIs or companies that start to invert the relationship from being a receptive chatbot, be a proactive leader with the AI, that will provide massive disruption in almost every industry that's a knowledge-based service industry.
Do you think I hear a lot about like, oh, AI is awesome, but I need something specifically built for my use case, for my business, for the type of work that I do. Should people be looking for like vertical specific AI tools, i.e., Huzi, or is that missing the point specifically? Like, talk to me about why Huzi specifically. What problem were you seeing that made you think we need to build something that is purposeful and will solve X? And the problem that we're seeing now, I think Kuzi fits in that 100,000%.
one of the frameworks that I think that's a myth is that AI needs instructions. That there's this whole thing about prompt engineering, and um, that I would reframe that to being like a context architect, to understanding that AI needs context, not instructions. And so the flexible sort of format that I'm working on in a Canvas format allows the user to kind of drag and drop context to hand to the AI instead of having to be a thoughtful typer and understand how to architect prompts. And so, first of all, I would lean into a system that thinks the way your brain thinks. Okay. So the reason why I developed like the Canvas product is because my brain is more right brain. I think more spatially. I think about things multiple times, a little more neurodivergent, a little more creative, like a lot of salespeople, like a lot of teachers, instructors, coaches, like anybody in the creative space of being marketing always needs any leaders. You're thinking in the 3D space, right? Not a linear sort of path. So I would work within a system that allows you to think the way that you think would be the first tip, Mo, to think about it that way. Yes, a great question about specialization. Yeah, I think specialization does help if you don't know how to make it specialized, right? So if a company is like producing a specialized tool or a specialized AI to perform a specific thing, that's going to take all the heavy lifting off you of know how to prompt engineer it and how to instruct it and get the right output, right? So there's those two factors that I would think about those two things. One, industry specific. If you just want to be an expert on what you do and not be an expert on AI and how to make it the expert, then I would definitely choose an industry specific. And then second of all, pick the interface or the framework, even the vibes, man, even the UI that gets you to be in the creative mode. It gets you in that productive mode, right? And I would use those two pillars to make a decision what products to use.
Thank you for that information. That was really, really helpful. I think I'm not feeding the information, or I'm not feeding the AI the context that it needs. And so I always want to divulge as much information as I can. But then, like this isn't an attribute of rhetoric or ego or whatever. I know that anybody that's been doing a specific thing for a very, very long time, 20 plus years, they're bound to forget more things than they could probably even teach, right? Like they're like, oh yeah, I completely forgot. And it's like a masterful thing, right? As an example. So I feel like AI becomes this, I don't know, this pillar that allows for bridging that gap in a sense. And so if I'm really good at my job, should I see AI as a tool that makes me superhuman, or should it be more of I'm kind of worried I need to really, really hunker down and make sure that the information that I'm providing is correct? Because I've seen this time and time again. If I ask a question that I have no specific use case for intellect or intelligence on, I don't know if what it's spitting back is correct or not. But if I'm in that space and I ask it a marketing question or a media question, I have some context of what's going on. Right. So that being said, is it best used as a complementary, enhancing your brain, an extension of your brain? Because I see a lot of people use it just as like their doctor, as Google, as, literally just like a Google, where they assume that everything that it spits back to them is the gospel truth. And I find that to be a little bit dangerous.
It's wildly dangerous. Even like Sam Altman will say that. Leaders of all these companies will say that they think it's absolutely asinine that people use it as their doctors right now, right? And they probably have to say that publicly, by the way, for legal reasons and whatnot, right? Like just to be honest about it. That said, even in that field, it's outperforming doctors, in some
I believe it.
diagnoses, and it's outperforming, professional lawyers with finding, cases that will actually, help their trial or whatever. So but you hit on something that's really important, and that is, how do you know what you don't know?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's the same thing. If I'm trying to establish my will and, figure out if I need to trust, and I just go to some professional, I just throw my, my livelihood on the feet of this expert. I'm like, hey, just tell me what to do. You're the expert. That's also asinine. Right.
Yeah.
Nobody in your life cares more about your money than you do, your health than you do, your family than you do, your well-being than you do, your pet than you do. Your vet doesn't care about your pet as much as you do, right? As an example, right? So if that's true, then we do need to have, again, I'm going to use the word agency probably a lot today, some agency to have us have a level of expertise to at least be able to collaborate with the expert to know what's the right decision for me.
Right.
Right. So going to a doctor today and saying, hey, just give me a diagnosis, give me a pill and let me know what, just tell me what to do is literally stupid. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing as sitting down in front of ChatGPT and say, here's my, diagnose me ChatGPT and then taking that out. They're both stupid. Right. So I do think, though, that we've never had a technology that allows you to raise your expertise in a particular genre faster than we have now. Right. It wasn't the internet. It wasn't Google. It wasn't anything else. Like, this is something that you can use to quickly elevate your knowledge. So you start to know if what you're hearing is true or good advice and so on and so forth. Right. So I would spend time, like, as an example, a real practical example here. If you're sitting down in front of, your AI model and you give it instruction, right? And something you're working on, like, I want to do this thing, and it's something newer to you. You're taking you and you're funneling it down to this micro point. I would invert that and say, AI, I'm new at this. This is something that I want to accomplish. As an expert in this field, what would the experts be thinking about or talking about? What is some of the best questions that I can ask in order so I can get up to the same level as you so we can collaborate on this together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Invert the relationship so you learn first and then execute,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that learning first part is what people skip a lot. They're
Yeah.
just they can prompt it into the truth. And then they're hoping that it is true.
Speaking of prompting, I was really focusing for a while on being able to engineer a perfect prompt so that
Mhm.
it can spit out exactly what it is that I want. As time has went by and AI has become better, it's becoming more and more dynamic to the point where it's going to be almost, if not already, conversational in nature, so that that's a skill that I no longer need to master. And I just need to be able to ask it questions like I'm asking you questions. And then I could iterate and I can, whatever, and go from there. So is that even, do you think that's still a skill worth developing, or should I just focus more on the subject matter itself and let AI advance and do the thing that it was built to do?
I think there's an element of truth to that for sure. I think there's a couple of myths. One, that one-shot prompting is the thing to do when actually AI is an iterative partner. And I always treat the first output as like the zero draft.
Yep, for sure.
First output is a zero draft, and then I'm gonna follow up. I'm gonna ask questions, iterate, drill down, ask for more
Mhm.
details, get more details. But one shot back and forth is not anything I've ever done, even at the very beginning. Second of all, though, like conversationally, I see people do things like, please and thank you and will you and all these sorts of things, right? Which is fine. And I don't know if anybody's out there has seen the study about how many millions of dollars in tokens that like OpenAI burns each day, the result of pleasantries, please and thank you. And I used to kind of think that was important because I just, as a man walking around the world, I just kind of believe that you get back what you put out. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
you just
Yep.
generally do karma and that
Mhm.
whole genre of the way of thinking. I generally believe that to be true. So
You
I
ever see
generally,
those videos that they make with like the androids coming like in the future and they're run by AI and they're like just wiping out all of humanity? And there's one guy's on the floor. He goes, but if you look at his prompt, he said please. He did say his
yeah,
please and thank you. So they let him live.
yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's just us anthropomorphizing everything. We make everything
Yes.
human, but
Yeah.
it doesn't care about you being nice. It cares about you being
Right.
clear.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So it's clarity over pleasantries. So when you're talking to AI, like you're talking about, I want to get like right down to the nitty gritty here. Yes, I do believe in the collaboration and conversing back and forth, but remove our temptation to talk to it like it's another person and please and thank you and will you and all those sorts of things and give it very clear, very direct, very concise, very thoughtful conversation, not pleasantries full of filler words.
Got it.
Okay. So as an
Yep.
example, it's like, hey, if you don't mind, would you please try and write a social media post about the new house I'm selling? Like, thanks so much. Right. Like I see people post that. I see people talking to AI like that. And it's not, not giving the best chance of success. You want to be like, act as a social media copywriter, write a 3-sentence sentence for this post,
Mhm.
this new listing. It has these features. The goal is to get users to click my bio. And I want to include 3 relevant hashtags for Austin, Texas. right? Or whatever. Like you want to be that sort of clear and specific, not like, hey, will you do this thing for me? And I hope you get it right. And no, make it better. And that's not what AI needs. It doesn't need pleasantries. It needs clarity.
Yeah. Do you think it'll ever get to the point where it'll get so smart where the specific classification and clarification is almost unwarranted?
It's almost there now where, you can be a little bit lazy with it and get good results, but I'm talking about excellence. I'm not
No, no,
talking about,
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
yeah.
I'm
And
just,
look, hear me on that. Like, yes, you can get fine results by just chatting and just having things with ChatGPT and whatnot now. But I'm talking about if you want to compete or you care about the output that's really giving you great business
right.
advice or writing great copy for your content or whatever, then you do need to care about these sort of details, right? Because that's how you do stand about. And we want to talk about like who's safe in the economy. Who's safe in the
Mhm.
economy is the top quartile, the top 10% of every industry. Other than that, I don't know, right? If you're average at what you're doing, then you are at risk in almost
Right.
every industry, right? If
Right.
you're mediocre at what you're doing and you don't care enough to be great at what you're doing, you are at risk to AI or other people using AI for sure, right? And in a knowledge-based service industry, you're at risk to the consumer getting a good enough answer out of their chat GPT, right? So if you're a good enough doctor, a good enough lawyer, a good enough real estate agent, you just give good enough advice, they can get that out of ChatGPT. So you have to be excellent and leverage AI to give that excellent advice, to find those unique, distinct, pieces of information you give your clients, to distill lots of content down into like finding the trends that you would have missed before because you didn't have the compute power, in your mind, or you can work an Excel spreadsheet as well, right? Like those are the things that I'm really wanting people to understand. Like this is the time to be fucking excellent at what you're doing, no matter what you're doing. Being a student, being a teacher, being an architect. Now is the time to be absolutely just fucking excellent at it. And you can do that now easier than you could before. And those are the ones that are safe. Those are the ones that are not worried about AI because they leverage AI to be excellent, right? And so people, humanity, a capitalist society, an industry will reward excellence. It rewards the gold medalist. It doesn't reward the silver, bronze, right? So we got to focus on being that gold medalist in whatever we're doing if you want to have a chance of being just excellent and having a great livelihood no matter what industry you're in.
And so you got to treat it like you treat anything else that you're trying to master in your professional or personal career. I mean,
Put
if
time in
you're
practice.
yeah, like if you want to master sales, you got to give, the adequate time and space to be able to do that. Let me ask you this. What's
Yeah.
different about building a SaaS company that is AI specific or even a SaaS company today? What's different about SaaS companies today versus, let's say, 10 years ago, specifically within AI? And what are some of the like most convenient monetization practices that you've noticed that people are adopting with AI today?
The first answer is, first of all, this is the hardest thing I've ever done, man. It's by far the hardest thing I've ever done, trying to figure it out, trying to build a company around it, deal with the ever changing landscape and environment, deal with the society's views of what it is and what it isn't, and a ton of misinformation about those things. Unfortunately, a ton of hype. A lot of these companies like promise that
Yep.
their tool or thing does this and it only is this. So people are like worn out. Like it's not that good because they're overpromised and under-delivered constantly. But the thing that is different, I will say, and this is true that I've personally experienced and from any founder or person in the space I've talked to, is the blazing speed that you have to operate at in this environment.
Mm.
So if a feature or product, used to take 6 months to build and deploy, it takes a month now, right? So a single, engineer is now doing the engineer of 4 or 5 if they're good, today. And so when a team used to need 12 engineers to produce a product, they only need 4 now, let's say, or 3, right, to do the same sort of work. So it's the speed of iteration, the speed of the consumer expectation, the speed of the technology changing constantly. And when the technology changes, they change something in the API, your product breaks, right? And you can't control that, right? If you're using APIs to run these different models, or to get data or whatever, and the things change so much all the time. So I'll just say that the speed is the thing that's just changed dramatically for sure.
I guess my question is like, what somebody that's on the beginning of their career trajectory right now, like how should AI factor into their planning? What would you say to that?
In what career? Like a developer, an engineer?
Any career. If a person is just out of school, or they're at the beginning or the interim of their career path, or they're shifting careers, where does AI fit into their planning? Because if they want to get ahead, if they're trying to change careers, or they're starting a new one, or they're starting from scratch, you can't get away from this. It's not
Yeah.
like AI is going to go bye-bye.
Yeah. And to be clear again, just to point out, like, I'm not saying it's AI. What we're talking about is leverage. AI just happens to
Right,
be this
right,
solution,
right,
right?
right, right.
Leverage its systems, its money, its people, its technology. So what we're looking for as an advantage when you come out of college or school is how much leverage do I have over my competition? How much leverage do I have over this corporation? They have to hire me, right? How much leverage do I have over my clients
Mhm.
where I'm the obvious choice? How much leverage do I have as in terms of value in my industry where they're going to put me on stages or whatever it happens to be, right? We're talking about leverage. So because that's the way to win is who's leveraged the best, right? Who has the best systems, the best processes, the most cognitive labor harnessed in some way, right? AI, a team, an expert panel, a board of directors. How are you harnessing the best of cognitive labor to advance your career is what you have to be focused on. And like, even if you're a plumber, like I see people posting about all the time, like, oh, well, if you're a plumber, you're safe. If you're a mechanic, you're safe. I'm like, okay, let's put two plumbers. Let's put an AI powered plumber against not an AI powered plumber. We got one plumber that's on his phone and he's got an app that where he can produce bids that's just to the penny, right, in 10 seconds. Or we got a plumber that has to go back to his office and figure it all out and send it over 2 days later. And
Mhm.
it's a little bit sloppy.
Mhm.
We got plumber A who's got Meta Ray-Ban glasses, who's like, can answer questions like, oh, I don't know how to do this fixture, or I got a problem right here, and they get it instantly answered. Or the plumber was like, I don't know how to do this. I'll call my boss and call around and figure out 3 days later. Right. I mean, we're talking about leverage, right? And so you take that in and put that into any industry, and the person with the best leverage wins.
You mentioned, thank you. You mentioned that's why you get paid the big bucks. You mentioned AI expert earlier. Yeah, that was sarcasm.
Someday.
Someday. You mentioned AI expert earlier, and that triggered a question in my mind. Do you think that's going to be a career path, or do you think like AI literacy is just going to become like this baseline, like computer literacy?
No, I do think it is important. In fact, that's one of the highest paid skills right now is how to take and be a translator between an industry's problem and this technology. Right.
Mm.
So people that are quickly learning how to translate, it's like, oh, you have this problem. I can identify that's this workflow or this technology. We're going to implement a RAG system, or we have an AI agent, or no, we just need an automation, right? Just a plain old non-AI agentic, just an automation that's been around for decades, right? And people are now realizing, oh, we can automate anymore that just because we have a little AI node in your N8N workflow or your make workflow or something like that, right? And so it's that translator, whoever can implement in a business, I think will have a lot of value for a long time. Right. And so it's translating the technology to solve a real problem at scale for an organization. And there's two things. It's just not the technology itself, but you have to fundamentally change the culture of your organization to be able to adopt AI tools. You have to talk about ethics. You have to talk about safety, data privacy, and security. You have to talk about adjusting your workflow to go from I'm going to my email first versus I'm going to my AI collaborative partner first, right? You have to adjust things culturally to develop a trust with the system. You have to develop trust with the technology. You got to develop trust with each other. Your clients have to trust your systems, right? So there's a lot that happens outside of just the technology that I think if somebody's really good at being able to adjust and develop and mold a culture of an organization towards AI fluency and then AI adoption and then AI implementation, that's the skill. And that's what we're trying to do at Huzi as well, by the way.
I was
Really
just about to, yeah, I was just about to ask, do you find that the biggest hurdle in your company right now, in terms of whether it be on the consumer side, bringing in new business, when a company brings in your product and it's, very at the beginning, do you find that most of the time it's a technical situation, or is it more about getting people to actually change how they work so that they can adapt to the new style of technology?
It has changing. If you look at any adoption curve of any technology, you got the early adopters and late majority, early majority, right? And you go all the way down to the late, I forget what they're called, the laggards, essentially, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
we
yeah.
are seeing the adoption curve. Like there's more and more people entering, this world where the conversations we're having with organizations or leaders or even individuals, solo users, their understanding of AI has grown so much over the last couple of years. Their understanding and their familiarity with it has grown. So conversations are more simple, but now that they're like willing, ready, and able to deploy or implement, they still need really deep help and expertise of how to do that. What does that look like? How much does that cost? What does it cost to run? What happens when it breaks? What happens to my data? All those sorts of things start to bubble up to the surface. And that's when a company like ours can swoop in and really help. Um, but I do think that it's adjusting, and AI fluency is increasing just overall society. So it's actually easier for us now because they're not talking about having these conversations like, who is this like wizard and what is this language you're talking about? I don't even understand it. Now they can understand it. So I'm not having to do a whole education process, right? And they've caught up a little bit, which is cool.
I giggled because you said wizard.
Oh man, it's
Yeah, I
so
love
fun.
wizards. Yeah,
People
dude.
like looking at, or not just me, but like people are like, what is this like gook like magic you're talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
What is this sorcery that you talk
yeah,
of?
this is wizard. How's this AI like read my documents? I get right. So it's pretty. It's been really really fun actually to watch that happen. The other day, I talked to somebody. We closed a deal yesterday with somebody. I've talked to them for over a year.
It's incredible.
He knew it. He saw it. He liked it. He knew it was going to change things. He didn't know how to do it yet. He wasn't ready yet. It took a year before he was like, as the leader of his organization, to go, oh, yeah. Now I get what you're saying. Now I get how to do this, right? So that's starting to happen a little bit more and more. So I hope our sales life cycle starts to shorten a little bit.
I think it will as more and more advancements and things are just becoming a little bit more commercialized. Like it's just becoming as common as buying a mug to drink tea out of. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just the new tech. It's like, oh, I need Microsoft Office or I need the new whatever. Um,
Well,
I
OpenAI has
do.
gone from 100 million average users a week to nearly 800 users, 800 million users a week, users. And so they're doing something like 6 billion on their API, like something like 6 billion tokens a minute or something like that. So
They
we're
went from
talking about
100 million, you said a week to 100 million a day?
to,
Because I
to nearly
saw,
800 to nearly
oh
800
God,
million a week. Yeah, it was
wow.
over 700 now.
Wow.
Right. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the usage of their API, I think is like 6 billion tokens a minute or something crazy. And
A
so,
minute?
mhm,
Wow.
yeah, it's
Wow.
insane. So yeah, definitely adoption is just skyrocketing, right? And with that comes the growing pains of that. With that comes the complaints of like, oh, it's failing, or oh, it's not what I thought it was. Yeah, because you're getting more and more people who don't know how to use it trying to use it, right?
Yeah. Do
So
you think this may be a stupid question? Do you think or do you know if OpenAI is profitable yet?
no, in fact, I think they need something like $400 billion this next year in funding.
Gosh.
Yeah, not even close. Um,
Yeah.
Now they're generating. I don't know what their balance sheet looks like, and I haven't looked lately on it. But and I'm of course going off of what I can like glean, from doing my little research. Not buddies with Sam Altman or anybody at executive level and OpenAI to speak with any authority, just to be super clear out there.
Right, right,
But
right, right.
knowing what I know about what's reporting and knowing what I know about what they talk about in their dev days and whatnot, I think the number is like $400 billion, which is like more than the whole venture capitalist investment of this last year or something crazy.
Oh
So.
my God.
Yeah, it's a big number. It's a big
That's
number.
insane. I
Mhm.
did want to, I don't know how much time you got left, but I do want to ask this before the end of this thing. Um, as of right now, like if I wanted to ask, like, what is how can you help explain what Huzi does? Like in the simplest of terms, I understand large language models. I understand ChatGPT. I understand the linear thinking. I understand how to use Gemini. Most people do. Most people have ChatGPT on their phones or they go on the computer and they're asking it questions. What can Huzi do? What Huzi offers that these other tools perhaps are missing or collectively are more of a benefit while using Huzi? Just very layman's.
Yeah, I always have a tough time in these conversations because I don't want to say it as if like there's only one tool and say anything bad about another company. What I look for is how do I have the most aggregated, best in the industry models available in one platform? how do I subscribe to a
Who
company
wouldn't want that though, Eric? Like,
research it all the time? They're just going to bring in the next greatest after they've tested it and made sure it's safe, secure, reliable, and actually does it as promised. Bring it into the
yep,
system so then I can use it in a way that makes me money, right? That's what I'd
yep.
be looking for as an organization and an individual user, because you're going to want to use GPT-5 for some things and Gemini for something else and Claude for something else. You're going to want to use Nano Banana over here in GPT Image Generator for something else. You're going to want to use Kling for one thing and VO3 and Sora 2 for another in video, right? So having all those models available in one subscription on one platform where I can actually use them to talk to each other and iterate on each other is wildly powerful and really important in my opinion. So we're trying to leverage the best of those models in one place. So as long as the user is clear on what they want done, now they can use like Canvas and Huzi, like wildly, like we helped a marketing company, Mo, to give you one like solid example. There's a marketing company and he worked for a really, really large agency. Now he works for a large private equity firm. He manages 16 brands for this private equity firm, and he's in charge of all the marketing. He was to rebrand one of their brands was a 3 to 6 month long process. And then he was starting to get down to like a 3 month long process. I worked with him, for a couple of days and showed him how to use Canvas and how to like organize his thoughts and create templates. And now he's got this 3 month long down process too. He can do it in a weekend. Okay.
That's
The same
amazing.
level. And I'm not going to just a Joe Schlub. I'm talking about this guy in charge of a large private equity firm in charge of 6 large brands, rebranding, and he's able to get the work done, the research, the iteration, the planning, the strategy, the presentation to get stakeholders to buy off on it, the content written, the images generated and all the prototypes built, and all those sorts of things. Even writes code for prototypes using Huzi, right? He was able to do that now in a weekend. So
Dude,
and he was using
one
that's
rebrand is arduous. One rebrand. That is
and 3 to 6 months long. And he was using ChatGPT to do it, but his brain, a creative space, wasn't able to do that in a linear prompt interface very well.
Mm-hmm.
And ChatGPT, as great as it is for a lot of things, it's a confirmation bias machine. It doesn't tell you when you're wrong. It says, oh, that's a great idea. And it leads you down the path. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are studies out now that show actually that an expert, to go back to one of our earlier conversations, Mo, there are studies that show now that an expert that use an AI model like ChatGPT do have an increase in productivity and efficiency. Everybody below expert that's using it for the same thing actually see a decrease in productivity and efficiency because they're getting led around by the nose by the AI and it's not giving them the best ideas. It's giving the generic ideas of what's on the internet, right? Unless you know how you're the expert, right? So it's very, very important that people do kind of raise their expertise to be able to get good outputs, even in today's smart models.
Yeah, I think that's a very important distinction. It's understanding the reliance versus the tool. It's like, driving around to a place you've been to once using Google Maps, like try to do it just off of memory. See if you can remember how to get there. So you
Yeah.
gotta, go ahead.
And
Sorry.
AI does, like, it's non-deterministic, man. So you can put the same prompt in 5 times and you get 5 different generations, right? And so
Which is
it's not
wild.
going to do a 1-for-1 like we're used to software where we put like 1 + 1 = 2. And that was what the Excel
Mhm.
spreadsheet did every single time. AI is not that way. That's not how it works. That's not how people work. That's not how our brains work, right? And so we got to kind of find those similarities that if a neural network is meant to kind of map similar to how our brains map and retrieve information, we got to be used to the creativity part of it. We got to get used to the variability part of it and take control of that and take ownership of that to be able to provide guardrails and collaborate in a way that gets the output that you want.
Thank you so much. Do you have 2 minutes to do a quick lightning round with me?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
Okay,
do it.
sweet. All right. These are quick hits. All right. So I'll just
Okay.
ask you a couple questions, a few questions. We'll run right through it. All right.
All
Favorite
right.
AI tool right now
Besides Huzi,
besides
would
Uzi?
be Gamma, I think, actually.
Gamma's
which
fun.
we're
I
which
remember.
we're doing an integration with, by the way.
Oh, that is so sweet. That's going to be phenomenal. That's an
Yeah.
underrated tool.
In fact, one of the senior engineers I'm interviewing right now for a new position, he came as a senior engineer from Gamma, actually, which is just perfect because we're looking
That's
anyways.
incredible. Oh, I'm
Because what we're looking
excited for
for
that.
is to go from like thought iteration, drafting and whatnot to deliverables, to artifacts that you give to your clients or produce, right? So
Literally. Yeah. Presentations, assets for social, for whatever. That's
yeah.
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
so
So
cool.
but you can't build the content in Gamma very well, but you can build the
No.
content fantastic, in Satori in the Canvas, and then currently copy and paste it to Gamma, right? So I want to do an integration to just
Right.
release the API, so we're doing an integration with
To
them
be
right
able
now.
to be able to see that, for people that don't understand, like Canvas within Satori is just a giant board. It is an
Mhm.
like artistic person's dream to be able to see things visually and be able to zoom in and zoom out at your
Connect the dots between things,
on your own
literally
accord.
connect the lines.
Yep, totally. So to be able to be able to export directly in integration to Gamma, and I could see the artifact that I'm building while all the other stuff is right here, it's just going to be, that's just phenomenal. All right.
I'm
Next
excited.
question. Most
They're a great
overrated
tool.
AI. Yes. Thank you. Most overrated AI trend
I
that you've seen.
oh, okay. This is a hot take, a non-popular opinion, but AI avatars.
Yeah. I
It,
have
it,
to
it to
agree with you on
me,
that.
to me, and I look at the comments, and I look at what people are craving. People are not craving artificial versions of each other, right? Remember when Facebook put all that money into the metaverse, right? And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like people aren't looking for that sort of thing now. People aren't raising their hand and asking for that in that way, right? In that sort of
No.
implementation. I think that there's a huge uh, upside to the AI avatar business that's not in the current iteration. And I'm looking at all these companies, and what they're doing is that they're having you, the general public, give them money to train all of their AI models. They're giving their face and like all of our ideas and our expressions, our emotions, and our voices and all that kind of stuff. And we're giving all that shit to these AI companies to be able to like literally like not need us in that way. And so I think that the AI avatar thing is like, I do like HeyGen. I understand it. We use it. Like VO3, Sora 2, like I play around. I've got cameos. I understand it, but the current implementation of it, I think is the most overrated tool.
I couldn't agree more. I think it, but if I were to say the silver lining to all of that is we went from, really high production content throughout social media used to be social. Now it's interest media. And then it became just an overabundance of, you got to post more. There's got to be so much content out there. You got to post 4 times a day, 7 times a day. And we're starting to lose track of like authenticity and quality and storytelling. And, in the midst of all this, I truly believe as a marketer and as a storyteller, as a podcaster, I find that the authenticity is going to win. The high caliber production, the incredible storytelling and drafting of a script, it is just going to overshadow all of these, dime for a dozen AI avatars. And I think that's going to give rise to another thing and true creativity. But that's just my 2 cents.
I know we're in a
Um,
lightning round, but I want to make sure people understand that since ChatGPT like first started to now, and that includes now all the models, we've gone up to nearly an 8 to 10,000% increase of content being produced on the internet from 4 or 5 years ago.
I didn't even know that. That is an insane
Not
number. That is
100%, not
astronomical.
500%. I'm talking like the last stat I saw was between 8 and 10,000 times more content being published on the internet. Because if it used to cost $100, then $10 now costs a penny, right? A bunch of mediocre content is just being placed. So I'm talking on Reddit, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. And I'm not just talking about the post, the comments as well. And most stats show that by the end of this year, it'll be 90% of the content posted on the internet is AI generated or augmented. 90%. Okay.
We're essentially spamming at this point. Like that's
We're
what it's turning
essentially,
into.
yeah, with those stats that literally
Yeah.
lead to what we did. We lowered the bar to create
Yep.
content. We lowered the bar to generate an article. We lowered the bar to make a video. And when it got that cheap, everybody can do it. And AI does not make you a better marketer. It amplifies what you already are. Right. So if you're a
Mhm.
mediocre marketer, you can now produce a whole bunch of shitty, mediocre marketing, right? Because AI does not have taste. It doesn't have a point of view. It only has what you tell it. And if
Right.
you're mediocre at it, if you don't have taste or point of view, it's just going to give you what you're giving it. Right. So
Mhm.
I just like, that's why I'm giving you stats to show, I think what your
It's
prediction is
important.
right, because with that level of noise, people are going to want a particular source and they're going to crave some quality. So there you go.
No, I really appreciate that. I think that's notable, and it's it needs to be said. I don't think people realize just where we're at with these stats and where actually things are heading. Okay,
Yeah.
so the next question is, since we did overrated, what do you think is the most underrated AI trend or AI, I guess, community tool, however you want to phrase that?
The most underrated trend is using it as a thought partner, not as a delegation tool. You know, like I start my day, I start most projects by getting some clarity. Again, I use the two-part, I use the strategist and the specialist sort of strategy all the time. And
Can I ask you just a follow-up question with that? Sorry to interrupt you, Eric, but when you say strategist, are these is this just a frame of mind, or are you actually building out these like little pieces
yeah, I build out these little
within your?
pieces. So I use the canvas. And since it's a flexible canvas, I throw up one AI, just drag it on the board, and I might give it a book, a YouTube video that's a specialist that's done the thing really, really well. And
Okay.
that's my strategist, right? And then I write the
Uh-huh.
prompts or figure out what to do. And then I have the other AI that's tuned to do the thing that I need it to do, whether it's the tone of voice for the copy or the style of the research that I'm performing. And so I use this all the time. I'm on one canvas. I'm constantly using one than the other, strategy specialist. And so they're two different tasks. And yet people are like expecting the ChatGPT to do it all. Right. So if you really want to elevate your game or elevate your copy or elevate your expertise in talking to a client in a way that nobody else does, your competitor's not doing, this is a better way than just having a prompt response with ChatGPT for sure.
And are you instructing it inside of Canvas that this is the tone that you want, and then and it knows that this is the information for the strategy or the strategist part of the
Yeah, so like a
conversation?
tactical thing, I use a four pillar sort of context. I use the goal, which is the why, the persona, which is the who, and the persona is both the AI persona and the audience I'm speaking to, or the person I'm speaking to. It's both things. The what is the
Uh-huh.
raw materials, like what's the data, what's the videos, what's the books, what's the files that I'm giving it, right? And then the guardrails is the how, the constraints, the tone, the format, and so on and so forth. So it's the why, the who, the what, and how. And that's kind of my four pillars of context that I can get great results out of any AI system.
That's fantastic. Thank you for explaining that. I just for listeners out there and for myself, I think that's incredibly useful because that literally sets you apart from like 99% of people that are using any of
For
this
sure.
stuff. So,
For sure. In an iterative process, it's not one prompt to what, who, why, how. It's an iterative process. And instead of like giving it a big problem to solve, use your strategist AI to break the big problem down into bite-sized chunks that you're having the specialist execute on. Right. So if you give an AI system one big problem to solve, you're going to get like a useless checklist of things to do and a useless timeline, a very generic answer. But if you have an AI that's helping you break this big problem down into these phases, right, of like building, it's like building a house. You don't just build a house. You dig the hole, you pour the
yeah.
foundation, you lay the posts and the piers, you lay the framing. It's like that. And so if you want to get better than generic results, you're going to break down these complex ideas. You're not going to say, build me a 30-day marketing strategy, act as a social media coach, right? You're going to say, I've got a $500 budget. My goal is to so on and so forth. What are the top three things that you would look for? Great. Okay. I like number two. In number two, right? You just kind of, then you keep going
And you
iterative
keep
down
breaking
that
it
way.
down. Yeah. Love that. Yeah, my next question actually kind of blends in with what you just previously said, which is what is the best AI use case that you've seen recently? And I can't find a better use case than what you just explained. I think that's just one of the best ways to leverage uh, AI right now into the best possible experience. I guess let's go to the next one. What do you think is the most funniest, or what have you seen is the funniest or the worst AI fail that you've seen or experienced?
Anybody that's like using it as a cheat code, as a diet pill, I think is funny,
Oh
and they
yeah,
get
yeah,
caught
yeah,
like citing like the lawyers that
yeah.
use the AI ChatGPT and cites bad cases. And like, to me, I think it's funny, like, what are you going to do? Like make fun of them? No, it's funny. It's just human nature to like look for the 6 minute abs instead of actually like eating less and working out more, like,
That's so
so
funny. Yeah,
there's
6 minute.
just
I
so
remember that
much of that
infomercial.
happening. What's that?
I remember that infomercial, the 6 minute abs. That's just funny that you said
Dude.
that.
And I love the Saturday Night Skit. It was like, this is the 5 minute abs. It was like, no, it's the 4 minute
Yeah,
abs, right? And so that is our society. Like, people are looking for cheat codes
yeah.
and to go on the beach and drink margaritas and not looking at ways to level up. And I hope people clearly hear me that AI is not making our lives easier. It's raising the bar in every industry, right? So if you have a company A that's like, or solo entrepreneur A that says, how can AI, help me work less, or how can AI, help me take more time off or whatever, they're not going to get it right, because and there's another company that's saying, how can I use AI to create a better consumer experience? How can I, use AI to leverage to get more referrals, right? So, and you'll just get your lunch eaten, by the
Yeah.
company B there.
Oh yeah.
So it's
For sure.
raising the bar, and I don't want to like sugarcoat that at all. It's raising the bar in academics, it's raising the bar in business, it's raising the bar, like, even, like I use it to create figure out the perfect gift to people, right? When I gift
Mhm.
or create a date night, or like want to do something with a family, right? Or whatever, like I'm using it in that way to like raise the bar, be better at whatever I'm doing than I would just do it on my own. And that makes me a better person, a better friend, a better father, and a better son, because I can just be more thoughtful. So use it to raise the bar in everything that you're doing.
Thank you for saying that. I think that is so that itself is so underrated. People don't realize the use cases that it could be leveraged and how to really enhance. Like it's just it's like the 2025 version of the 1990 version where you would go on Google and you'd look up gift ideas for my sister, who likes
Right.
whatever, and you get like a
Right. Right.
basis.
Right. Right.
You know what
Right.
I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah,
Oh,
totally.
I didn't know I could. So, so yeah, like that. I don't even think about that. I haven't really like being able to compile a phenomenal date night by using the data that I currently have on my wife. I think could be, could get me in the green seat instead of the hot seat. So,
Bro, I
um,
have a board where I've got, everybody's sizes and favorite things that they like and all this stuff, right? Everything I've collected about like people close to me. And so, yeah, anytime I
that's
want, like,
so cool.
brainstorm, it's like, hey, there you go. And I can go online and find the perfect gift or find the right movie to watch or whatever it is, right? Based on the likes, wishes, and dreams of the people I care about.
I'm gonna have to do that, man. I'm gonna have to spend this
It's
weekend
pretty
and
cool.
mess with that because that's pretty sweet. That's pretty sweet. All right, last
And
question. I'll get you out of here. Oh,
hit
go.
me.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think one of my new favorite phrases that I'm using is this is actually an analog renaissance when you look at it that way. Because that use case, I used AI, but I used AI to be better in the real world, right, with human beings.
That
And
is
so
very true.
spending more time giving a better gift, having a better dinner, finding the better movie to watch, like those are all things in the real 3D world. I just happen to leverage AI to be better. So this analog renaissance thing, I think, is a nice kind of romantic way to think about it too, where I'm not just stuck in this digital world dealing with AI all day long, right? I'm using it to be a better person in the 3D world.
You're gonna have to coin that phrase because I really like it. Analog Renaissance.
Analog
Yeah,
renaissance, baby.
very cool, man. Very
Yeah.
very cool. All right, well that leads to the last question, which is
Hit me. Hit me.
AGI. I want to know: do you think this is ever going to come to the point where it's going to be like where we're at with AI? 5 years, 10 years from now, 50 years from now, is it ever going to happen? Are we there at the precipice? Like, where do you think we're heading, and do you think it's even going to come into fruition?
Like what, AGI? Is that what you're asking?
Yep.
Um, Innovation can only really affect society at the pace of adoption. So first of all, so
Oof.
just
Oof.
because we have the technology doesn't mean it can bleed into society, right?
A
In
man
that way.
spitting bars right now, ladies and gentlemen. Go
Oh,
ahead.
you like that one? Um, it's when you just really think about it, like I actually think we probably are pretty damn close already, but we don't have the legal entity in place. We have godlike technology, but I've said this before, but a society that like fights over Xboxes on Black Fridays, like those
Yep.
two things
Yep.
mixed sometimes. And so figuring out a thoughtful way to actually not break everything in a really critically fast and abrupt way is being thought about by people. Um, I don't want to say that they're any smarter than you and me. I don't believe in like putting all the hopes, wishes, and dreams of a bunch of smart people trying to figure all this out, because I'm telling you that's not how the world works. Um, there are some very, very smart people, but there's a lot that we can do as a society to kind of get ready for this. And I do believe that people need to get back in touch with a spiritual practice. I do believe that they need to get back in touch with nature. I do believe that they need to touch grass more often. I do believe that they need to establish community relationships, deep relationships. I do believe that people need to get to know themselves, right? I do believe that people need to do that personal development work now more than ever, because if you don't know who you are, AI is going to tell you who you are, and it's going to use you as the product, right? So like
Damn.
having somebody know who they are when they sit down in front of a terminal, sit down in front of a computer, use AI is really hypercritical. What do you stand for? What is your morals? What is your mission? What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to do in the world? And unless you're clear on that, the AI is going to tell you what to do. Okay. And there's already systems out there where AI is hiring people. People are signing up to get paid by the AI to perform work by the AI that the AI gives them, right? Like Payman and a few other platforms like that. And like there's AI systems, or I can give my AI a budget, and if it gets stuck on what it wants to do, it can then hire a person to do it because it doesn't have legs or arms or whatever. It needs to hire a person to drive or go pick up a part or deliver something or whatever. The AI will find somebody, pay them on the budget I give them, right? And then go execute the task, right? So going back to that, your answer, your question, buddy, it's really that personal development work should be like on everybody's front page, on the to-do list of every single day, developing that inner peace with who you are and what you are and who you spend your time with, developing that clarity of what your mission is in life. Because if you don't, the AI will tell you. So
Brother, thank you so, so much for this insightful conversation. I've learned a tremendous amount of information, and I just, I'm ready to tackle things on. Where can people find you, your company? How can they keep up with what you're working on?
yeah, we've got to do a better job at our social media. Me personally, getting out there again. And I used to be more on social media. I'm going to do it again. I keep talking about it, but I spend more time on the company than I do outward, and I got to invert that relationship now. So we're making another hire in the engineering, so I can, go out there and talk and kind of spread some of this information and honestly learn, from outside of what I could just learn on my own, be more out with people in events. And so I would say, email me, Eric at Huzi.ai for sure. You can go to Huzi.ai, our new website that's coming really soon, man. It's looking fantastic. I'm super
So sick.
excited. In fact, that's my next to do after we hang up here is do rough drafts on that. Um, uh, but yeah, I thank you for asking that. But just go to Huzi.ai or Instagram, Huzi.ai.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited for the next one, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a
Thanks for
great
the
day.
conversation. See ya.
Bye.